My grandfather, McKelvey, along with his mother and father, came to Henderson County from Spartanburg, South Carolina, or near Spartanburg. Of course, they came over the mountains in a covered wagon. They came on to what is now Chesterfield, and about 3 miles north of that. That is where they settled. I don't know if they made arrangements before they came or not for a place to live, but they found this place, and later it was named for them. It was on Browns Creek, and they named this bridge the McKelvey Bridge. There was also a Negro family with them, Till McCraw.
Okay.
Till McCraw was a yellow Negro. It was said that he was part Indian. He lived within the first year they were there. Then he went to live with a Denison family. Now there was a little village nearby named Lone Elm, named for the tree, the big elm tree that stood there, which was quite famous throughout the area. In this village, I've heard them say there was a doctor and a dentist, cotton gin store, and a school. Just 2 or 3 miles from that was the old McCall homestead. Now this was where my grandmother Betty was born. She, along with several children. So there was, at that time, not much moving in and out, and there was a good deal of excitement about this new family coming into the neighborhood. So these young men and women met on Sunday afternoons during warm weather up at the old McCall place. And they had a little social hour out in the yard there. So the first Sunday he was there, he heard about it, and he came over. And they were all excited about seeing him, and my grandmother said that she didn't think about that he'd be interested in her, because the other girls were all planning on him being their beau. But she said she was surprised that he picked her out at that time. Short time after that, they were married. Then they moved to Lone Elm. And there they had their family, which consisted of my mother, Aunt Eva, and Belton. There was this road that led from the Lone Elm village over to the McCall place, and maybe a quarter of a mile, and along there it was thickly settled. Grandfather Winfield's family lived there. He had 2 sisters, married, and lived in that area. He had a brother named Turner who was never married. Fine young man, it was said. He and my Aunt Adelaide, grandmother's sister, were engaged at the time of his death. She later married Askew Bray. They had 1 son. The little boy died at the age of 12. His name was Carl. They lived over at the, John Neely knows it is the Martin Wallace place in early years.
What do you remember your grandpa McKelvey? he was looking like?
He was tall, ruddy complected, with light hair, and awful severe with the grandchildren. We really did fear him and wanted to do what he wanted to do and not get into trouble. And my grandmother was one of the kindest women in that section there. In fact, that she was spoke of lovingly by all the people around there as Aunt Betty. Now, she was sick a number of years on the bed. So from there, she taught my mother and her sister to do the housework. She sat up on her elbow and told them how to sweep, wash dishes, and cook. So in later life, she overcame this, and she was up and doing her work. But all those years lying in the bed caused her to be humpbacked. I remember that about her. That's the way I remember it first.
How was she sick? What was wrong with her?
Well, it was a condition that required a hysterectomy, which was not done at that time. And so she just had to stay there until that time her life was over.
Grandpa McKelvey farm.
Mm-hmm.
There's a watch at home and a dome there that was his,
Mm-hmm.
and he gave it to Papa.
So, years later, the NC and St. L Railroad came through Chesterfield, stopped at the Tennessee Railroad. They never crossed it. The plans were to build a bridge, but they didn't. So, the people began moving down to the depot and the railroad. And it was said that this bridge was named after Lord Chesterfield, who was one of the planners of the railroad. Wasn't too many years until everything was gone from Lone Elm. The tree now stands there. Of course, it's dead. That's all. Elm trees have died in late years. So Grandpa and Grandma came down to Chesterfield and bought a lot and built, at that time, what was supposed to be a fine house. John Brown was going to school there. And the school was real close to this building site, and he told me about watching them build that house there. It had a veranda, as Grandma called it. We'd say front porch. Wide hall, 2 rooms on one side and 3 on the other. She was an excellent housekeeper and supposedly one of the best cooks. She's real proud of her home there.
Who lived in that house that I would have known? Where was that house?
In a settlement of the estate, Aunt Eva took that house. And then later Jake and James bought it from her. And they were living there in 52 when the tornado come and destroyed it. So they just built another house. Jackie, a widow, still lives there. After my grandfather McKelvey had a family, they were grown and married, he had this urge to go back to Spartanburg, which was a long way at that time. But he went, and he said he found very few people that he remembered there as a boy. He had an uncle they called Uncle Doc, who left there at that time, but he went to Texas, to Plainview. Grandpa McKelvey had an itching foot, and he, after he was an old man, he wanted to go out there. He'd never been to Texas and hadn't seen Uncle Doc. So my father went with him on the train, and he said that Grandpa enjoyed every bit of it. And they were both surprised at the plains out there, that flat land that you could see miles and miles. Uncle Doc insisted on Daddy coming out there and buying some land. But of course that was pretty far-fetched for Daddy to do that. But I've heard Daddy talk about the goodbyes there, and he kind of waxed poetic, and he said that they stood there on the plains, and Grandpa and Uncle Doc told each other goodbye, both of them, knowing that they'd never see each other again. About 8 or 9 years ago, I was through there, and Karen was in school at Abilene. So I had really looked forward to finding some of those McKelveys. So we stopped at this little town of Plainview. And I got a telephone directory, and I found only one, W.C. McKelvey. And I called. And I didn't get an answer, and I was so disappointed. I thought surely I could find out something about him. And then when I came home, I wrote him a letter, and I told him he felt like writing. I'd like to hear from him, but I never did hear, so could have been he was dead even at that time. And there were a good many McKelveys in Plainview, but I never could get in touch with, in Lubbock. Is that where Karen was?
Abilene? She worked in Lubbock?
Lubbock. But I couldn't reach them by phone, and those that I did talked with wives in McKelvey families, and they just didn't know much about it. So that ended that dream. My grandfather, McKelvey, along with his mother and father, came to Henderson County from Spartanburg, South Carolina, or near Spartanburg. Of course, they came over the mountains in a covered wagon. They came on to what is now Chesterfield, and about 3 miles north of that. That is where they settled. I don't know if they made arrangements before they came or not for a place to live, but they found this place, and later it was named for them. It was on Browns Creek, and they named this bridge the McKelvey Bridge. There was also a Negro family with them, Till McCraw.
Okay.
Till McCraw was a yellow Negro. It was said that he was part Indian. He lived with them the first year they were there.